Hey, what's up, guys? So doing something a little different today, doing something I said I would never do, and that is I bought a chesty. So I do have a chest GoPro cam. My eyes are starting to get better after the surgery. It's been 6 months. I feel comfortable wearing my contacts again. So I've kind of started getting back into the drone flying. Obviously I'm not traveling for work anymore. So some of the long range stuff I'm starting to convert into things that'll be more useful for me around here. First thing being my Floss 8 that I used to just do extreme long range with, really underpowered, overpropped. Rebuilt it. I've been chasing some RC aircraft, some foamies with my friends on the weekends, and you know, the 5 inches just don't cut it for speed and longevity. You know, they're getting 7-8 minutes of flight. You know, I'm getting 4 because I'm having to just ride the throttle 70-80% to keep up with them. So I rebuilt the Floss. Got the WG2X, the Feiyutech Gimbal on the top just for fun, to try and get some kind of like steady sideways shots where I'm panning maybe in front or to the side, and I've got the drone, you know, at about maybe 30 degrees of roll and 20 or 30 of backwards tilt to kind of keep them in frame. I wanted something where I don't have to get lower than them when I slow down, because the camera is going to stay level. So I did some backyard tuning on it. Just got it to the point where line of sight, it's flyable. Interesting thing about having the gimbal on there is when you really start to push the tune to the type of responsiveness you would want for freestyle or even for cinematic chasing, where you're getting the D and the master gains up there pretty high, you end up with like actually 2 peaks in the step response curve. One, you know, when the quad, let me power up the gimbal so I can show you. So obviously the gimbal itself, you know, when the quad moves, the camera is always going to be facing forward. Now it still does pan, which I could lock it to a single direction. The reason you end up with kind of a double step response is initially the quad's going to move and there's no resistance, but then at some point the gimbal kind of counteracts that, and you'll see that in the graph, which makes tuning really interesting. When you start pushing the gains up there really high, you end up with the flight controller responding to the actual gimbal countering the motion of the quad. So you end up with kind of like a self-induced oscillation. So what I did is I took the gimbal off, put a standard GoPro mount on, tuned it to the point that I would normally tune a quad to, as far as the step response times and rise to peak times that I would want and the feel that I want, you know, with acceptable motor temperatures. Then I threw the gimbal on, and obviously we had some oscillations and quick stick movements because, you know, the quad would go and then the gimbal would react to that and it would kind of wobble. Prop wash made it really bad because the gimbal's just constantly fighting the drone as it's going down. So I backed the gains down a little bit to the point where I don't have any of that. So this is going to be the true test flight at the park today. It doesn't look like there's anybody here, so I'm just going to do a quick cruise around with the gimbal on, with hypersmooth on. I've got a anti-vibration little skid plate for a DJI quad off of Amazon, which initial testing for real steady, you know, with the Hero 7 you get the dirty gyro data and it kind of corrupts real steady unless you have a really loose dampening system to keep that from happening. On 2 of the quads I tested this on, it worked okay. There were still some points in the file where it would just do that super shaky nonsense because all that high frequency noise was still making it into the camera. But on one of them it was dead perfect on a remix. So we're just going to try that out today. I'm going to do a flight with hypersmooth, then I'll probably come back and land, turn hypersmooth off, and then run that through real steady and just kind of see, you know, what we get. I don't really know how it's going to go. I also brought a standard GoPro mount to maybe try and do some freestyle on the last 5 or 10% of the pack if no one shows up. But you know, it is a park, so if, you know, people come and want to play, you know, on the swing set or walk their dog or whatever, then I usually pack it up because that's what the park is for. But anyway, see if I can figure out why my lanyard is all twisted up. Sweet. So yeah, we're just gonna give it a shot. I'll try and get the stick cam in focus, and then I think I've got a SD card in the actual air unit. And then what we can do is get a little bit of overlay so you can see how much the gimbal is leveling out. Now, you can adjust the speed at which the gimbal pans and tilts, but it does tend to overreact, meaning if I bank really, really hard, you know, to the left, the camera will actually lean to the right. It almost looks like a car leaning going around a turn. Not sure if that's going to be correctable or not. I remember when Nurk did the, oh God, what was that? Nortec, their single axis gimbal, had the same type of issue. And I think it's just trying to compensate for anticipated movement. And there is some G effect, you know, when you're pulling a turn. So it's not too noticeable. I think mainly for what I'm going to be using it for, which is like strafing runs to get pan and tilt shots, or like what would normally be like a chase car or a rail setup for a plane coming in to land, touch and goes. I think it's going to be fine because I'm not going to be in a sustained turn. But mainly this should allow me to kind of make more adjustments to my position, you know, either coming up on a subject too fast and having to pull back, or actually decreasing distance from the subject. I think this is going to be able to make the shots a lot more level. And obviously still a lot of my chase setup is going to be with a conventional quad, just because you can't really flip and roll or split S this. The gimbal will max out, and yeah, that's not good. So let's see here. Hopefully my goggle battery is not dead. Oh, there we go. Okay, goggle battery. Let's go ahead and power this guy on. Take my lens cap off of the GoPro, or reset the gimbal. All right, so okay. All right, GoPro on. Okay, let's see if we can get the air unit fired up here. Record settings, recording device, aircraft. Okay, we should be rolling on that. We are in wide 4K 60 hyper smooth for the GoPro. Yeah, probably gonna take it easy. I don't really know what this is gonna do. The motor temps have been good and line of sight looked good, but yeah, not really sure overall how this is gonna work. And we get a little reposition here. Okay, I think that should be good. All right.
Oh fucking hell, this is gonna break loose.
So the tune feels pretty good, line of sight. You know, no oscillation, no trilling, no like super crazy type of like noise or anything. Everything feels pretty good, but I really don't know, you know, until you actually fly it, kind of what we're gonna get. So I'm gonna take it pretty easy. I turned the brightness down on the GoPro. I was chasing somebody the other day, so I had to remember to turn that back up, but I forgot to turn my air unit cam. I think I still have it set to like -3, and it's absolutely horrible right now. I can't see a damn thing. So, okay. Let's get kind of a quick run here. Looks good. Like a slow pan. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to descend over into the playground this way,
14 minutes.
The other thing I gotta say when I land is these motors are amazing. Everyone talks about Brother Hobby like they're the God's thing. And yeah, they make good motors. But these X Nova or Zenovas, they're a 2812, 1300 kV, which I was a little concerned about that kV not being enough on the top end. But these things really hit the trifecta. I mean, they have the smooth feeling of resolution that you would get with like the original Ethics Silks or the Stout V2s, which I loved that they were underpowered. These have the amazing initial torque and punch of like a Brother Hobby 3115, but where the 3115 requires like a really aggressive prop to take advantage of all that torque and the lack of top end, these things absolutely scream at the top end. You know, you get that initial pop when you nail it like you would with you know, a really large 30 series stator, but then you also get
15 minutes.
like some absolutely insane top end. I mean, I think I clocked it at 93 just with a quick run. Had a little bit of high throttle wobbles there. Let's see. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of throbbles. I'll probably have to increase the anti-gravity gain. But I don't want to negatively impact the gimbal. And you got to really watch it when you nail it like that. The gimbal will max out trying to compensate, which is not a good thing. So see if I can fly through this gazebo. I still got my camera angle kind of high. We're going to try and kind of keep it slow here.
Minutes.
Might even put a little bit of expo in the throttle. I also got to remember that I am like significantly taller than I would be with a standard GoPro mount. You know, when I go under some foliage. So why don't we go ahead and bring it back in and take a look at what we got so far.
I'll be back.
Okay. I'm gonna stop recording on the goggle and let's go check motor temps. And we'll turn hyper smooth off and we'll go for a run and see what we end up with as far as real steady goes. I mean, motors are not even warm to the touch. The back motors are a little warm. Check my CG real quick. Might be a little tail heavy. So we are, yeah, we're pretty good there. Okay, I'm gonna power the gimbal off and I'm gonna take us out of hypersmooth and we'll do a run. Okay, no hypersmooth. Okay, now obviously for the I'm not going to do just a naked run of only no hypersmooth on the gimbal, just because you've got the DJI feed I'm going to throw in the corner down here. So I really don't think having a raw file flight is going to do anybody any good. Any type of vibration, you should be able to see that in the naked DJI feed. So all right, we'll reposition here. Okay, so we are no hypersmooth 4K 60. We're still in wide, which sometimes if you get the bobbles you can go to super view and that'll fix that, just because it doesn't pan in as much. Oop.
I'll be back. Oh fucking hell, this gonna break loose. I'll be
We definitely got something. Maybe have a capacitance failure. Definitely had some sort of power failure. Still got video. Don't know, but we're gonna go ahead and unplug and then go check that. So that's definitely odd. Do have GPS on and GPS rescue on, but I don't anticipate that we would have had a fail-safe there, you know, being so close. The only thing I can think of would be maybe a capacitance issue, some type of other electrical issue. So yeah, I think we're gonna pause it right there. I mean, that was a good maiden. We'll check the footage out and kind of see what we ended up with. Yeah, I don't know. That was odd. I haven't had that happen in the testing so far. Motors sound good. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't unplug in between packs, so maybe we had an issue with the single home point coming back and rearming on the same flight. But that's definitely strange. Don't see anything coming undone. Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll probably go back home and plug it in, check Betaflight, and spool it up, props off, and make sure we don't have some type of issue going on. You know, definitely because I don't want to have a mid-air fail-safe or power issue there, which that was also weird because I went to disarm and I didn't get a immediate disarm. I had a delay. The only thing I could think of about that would be having it in GPS rescue or failsafe, where I lost receiver signal, because then it would not disarm immediately when I disarmed it, since it was trying to fly home. But all in all, I think successful test. We'll take a look at the footage and see how that did, and then kind of go from there. But it's definitely a fun quad to fly. These motors, man, I tell you, they are just absolutely freaking amazing when you've got, you know, the speed and power rarely come together. You usually end up, you know, sacrificing some top end to get that bottom end punch, or you sacrifice some of the top end just outright with size, going to a large stator that just can't respond fast enough and really needs a super heavy aggressive prop. And this, you really get the best of both worlds, which is super surprising. Really happy with these motors. I think they're also a good deal, like 28 bucks or something, which for a 2812 is a really good price. Normally, you know, you're at like the $40 price point. So yeah, so thanks for watching.